Welcome to another episode of Stark Fishing. It's an early Saturday morning, May 9th, and I decided to put the boat in for a very short trip on the Savannah River. There's rain in the forecast and a lot of chores to do around the house, but I really wanted to get my boat out and run it since this is kind of the first time the weather's cooperated since I got it back from the shop. I don't even want to think about how much I've spent on repairs over the last 6 months. I'd rather just catch some fish, so I'm just going to drop in on a couple of my spots that have produced in the past, and we're going to see what happens. Now, it's an outgoing tide at the moment. It's probably about 2 hours from low tide. And this first spot has been good for catching both stripers and redfish, although I think it's been a while since I've had any luck here. But it's convenient, so it's always worth stopping and throwing in. I'm using artificial this morning, and you can see that my rig is it's a Texas worm hook that's got, I have an assortment of different paddle tails I'll be checking out to see which one works best. And they're going to be rigged weedless, and I've got a little egg sinker above it, just enough weight to get it to sink quickly in the fast current. So I'm just letting the current do most of the work for me here. There's a fairly large outcropping of rocks that come out from that point, and I've learned that the fish oftentimes will sit right up on the edge of the bank there or on the backside of a ledge that kind of comes out there from those rocks. So I cast up in there, and a lot of times I'm just letting the current pull that lure down across that point, and a lot of times that's where the fish will hit. But not today. See, I've learned not to spend too much time in one spot if I don't feel a bump or a hit in the first several casts. I might switch colors and see what happens, which I did this morning, but this particular spot just didn't seem to be holding any fish, or they weren't biting. So I was only here for about 10 or 15 minutes before pulling up the anchor and moving on upstream. Okay, here we are. And we're not too far from the first stop, but it's a different type of bottom. So instead of rocks, this bank has a lot of submerged timber, which is one of the reasons why I'm fishing weedless. And even rigged that way, there's a good chance of getting snagged. Now, close to the bank, it's fairly shallow, but then it drops off into 25 to 30 feet of water and just less than 10 feet out. Ooh, that was a hit. Something popped it. Now, though it's difficult sometimes to determine if you're coming over a log, that was definitely a hit, and it's a good sign that there's some fish holding in the area. Now it's just a matter of trying to figure out what they want. So I had that one bump, but after multiple casts with no more hits, I decided to switch colors and see if that helps kind of entice a bite. And there's a fish. Whoa. Whoa, this is a big one. It's so important to have your drag set correctly. Now, my gear is really not heavy enough for a fish this size, but if it's able to pull off line when it makes a good run, you're more apt to be able to land it without a broken line or a straightened hook. Netting a fish this size just by myself, solo, is always a challenge. Oh, but there she is. Thirty-five inches. So I'm not sure if you heard me there. That fish measured in at a little over 35 inches. From my understanding, anything over 30 inches is referred to as a bull. It's a bull red. Regardless, the slot limit in Georgia is from 14 to 23 inches, which means we were way over the limit, so back in the water she goes. Take a moment, turn your eyes to the world around you through the lens of that 360-degree camera. The river's waking now, the first fingers of sunlight climbing carefully above the dark tree line, spilling gold across the water that's carried shrimp boats and storms and fishermen long before any of us arrived here. There's a certain kind of peace found on this stretch of the Savannah River, the kind that reminds me of how small I am and, at the same time, how blessed I've been to be called to a place like this as home. It's probably been at least another 20 minutes since that first fish, and I've actually switched up colors again as I'm convinced that there are more fish in this area. Some days the fish seem to be right up close to the bank, but sometimes they may be sitting much deeper in the timber I mentioned earlier. So on this cast, I'm working that lure really slow to stay close to the bottom as it moves down the ledge into 30 plus feet of water. Ah, there she is. This is another hog. She hit way off the bank, which means she was really deep. Not only am I fighting a big fish, but also a really stiff current. I mean, the Savannah River, especially when the tide is going out, that current is something else. Ah, hear that drag. That is music to the ears of a fisherman. And in the boat she goes. Wow, this one topped in at over 37 inches. Hey, the bite was slow this morning, but man, was it worth it when the bite finally came. We had 2 red fish over 35 inches in less than an hour. That pretty much wrapped up this trip, and I headed back not long after that catch to the boat ramp. If you haven't subscribed, hit that button so you'll be notified when I drop new content. Not to mention you'll be supporting my channel. Summer vacation's only a week out for us teachers, and although I'm working through the month of June, I plan on doing as much fishing as I can squeeze into my schedule. Hey, thanks for joining me on this trip, and remember, if you see me out on the water, be sure to stop and say hello.